Well, hello everyone. It's like you talked about right here is like, Earth a shell, coloring activity right here is that, talking about is a story from a couple of years ago it was, from what I learned, of course, in science class in the 8th grade, it would have been about 1996, 97, 98 it was. It's like for science class it was. But basically right here is talking about is like the story that, what I can remember is about science class that for whatever reason I thought the Earth was a shell. I'm talking about the type of shell that what you call is like a to where that there would be like what you call is like a wall, a wall of planet Earth that would be like what you call is like some part, say, of the world it is, other than like what you call is like people talking about, maybe if you heard of people used to thought maybe the world was flat, but then of course they found out it was round. It was, I guess, that's what I remember that the teacher was saying that what the teacher was saying that yeah, that thought people maybe thought that the world was flat. It's like what you have right here is if you put like a state right here, and of course maybe a few other states, and that something that you would normally see, yeah, something that you would maybe see on like a video game like Toe Jam and Earl. If most of us are familiar with that Genesis game, it was that Sega Genesis game it was that you have right here. It's like with the world, people thought that the world was flat. It was, of course, like put it to where if you were if outer space was right here, it was. If outer space was right here, and knowing about the way the teacher was describing it, if you were to be what you say is like sailing, sailing on a boat, somewhere, it was if you were out at sea, sailing on a boat, and then all of a sudden it's like you start sailing, and then it's like and then it's like and then you would fall off the you would fall off the edge, you say up Earth, and then they say you fall, and then you die or something like that. I don't know exactly. That's of course that's apparently that's what I was told, that knowing about people used to think that the world was flat, and knowing about that if you have like see here, put some grasslands like right here, it's like if you had like which calls like a city or highways or anything like that right here, and then knowing about that yeah, that somebody were to be sailing, I guess I don't know if that would be like maybe the Lewis and Clark story or anything like that, too. We're talking about from whenever they went, if somebody went sailing out at the south part of the say of the globe, and then talking about it's like that they went sailing, I guess, on the Pacific, and then whenever they came back, they say that they went around the world. They didn't fall off the edge. You say fall off the edge of Earth or whatever. So, but anyway, that's what I remember. I learned in the 8th grade that that's what I was told, and of course, from what I can remember is that talking about it's like we say with Earth. It's like talking about if you would be driving somewhere, and I used to think that the Earth was a shell. It's like you'd be driving, and all of a sudden you would run into the wall, say some wall of Earth, and then go, and then you'll crash into like what you call is like into the center, into the wall of Earth it was. But on the other hand too, that knowing about it's like that if you were to just like if I describe it right here is like that go ahead and draw. See, but I used to think that the Earth was a shell, like an eggshell. It's like talking about right here. You have right here is the outer part of the shell, and then of course the inside. I thought it was more likely the inside, on the inside of the shell, that there was like places like you say if New Hampshire, if there was other towns and cities like that, Des Moines or any places like that. It's like located it inside of a shell. It was, and then knowing about that you have places like this, you have a few lands and stuff like that, a few places, the cities and stuff, and then knowing about it's like right here with the shell part right here, and then knowing about that until all of a sudden it's like somebody is like we're talking about like right here is a shell, and then knowing about if you were to stand out of Earth, and then actually look at the stars. And a lot of times I used to always think that with the sun though, kind of a funny story, but with the sun, lava, I used to always think about if Earth is a shell, then if we're talking about the sun that would orbit around, say around the galaxy, around the Milky Way, it was be orbiting around. How does it get inside of Earth? It's like talk about how does it pass through the shell. It's like talking about the sun will be visible, of course, from the sky. It is, and just knowing about that yeah. How does it get into the shell? And of course, whenever that astronaut, if an astronaut, a sky, a space, sailor, it's like on a space shuttle. It is, how do they go up into space? Whenever if they could, more likely if they can break through the Earth shell or something. Go up, it's like you got the space shuttle about right there. But anyway, how did they go into space? How did they get into space if they would have to break through the Earth shell, just to get out into space it was. And a lot of times it took me a while to figure it out, because I could probably say that used to think a lot of things about is talk about with Earth. It's like talking about how big is Earth, and it's like where's the wall that to where it shows, like to where the one side of the Earth, and where it ends or whatever you call it. And a lot of people probably think about doing the studies about Earth. It is. I remember this in the 8th grade, that knowing about you have like these different rocks, say rocks and soils and stuff. And right here is lava. But on the other hand too, that knowing about if anybody were to ask the question about, it's like that, that whenever we dig into the ground, how far deep do we go before we fall into space or whatever? And then, or of course, it could be a question related to, it's like, hey, where do babies come from? Or, hey, it's, I'm wondering, I'm like, and how is money made? How is money made whenever we can maybe run out of material? Or, the fact about that, how if the pipe is disconnected, how is it that there's still water coming through the line or whatever you call it? And more likely that there's going to be questions later on about the fact about that really it's this makes no sense, or okay, now it makes sense because since you explained it or anything like that. But from my experience, I could probably tell anybody that whenever I found out, of course, that the Earth, of course, that we were standing out, it's like in talk about standing on the surface, say, of the planet Earth. It was is knowing about. It's like that a lot of the lands that like so far as talk about visible from space to this guy, the equator right here, that you think about that you got the land right here. And knowing about that, really about our oxygen, how does it, does it, if there's any way that it leaves the atmosphere, how does it stay in the atmosphere? And more likely they probably say that, it's produced. It's produced by the fact about, just like with the rainforest, of course, with the other sources of air purifiers, and of course, and then on the other hand too, that most parents, you probably think about it, it's like, that they could maybe say that, that they got quite a few ways about how they work things out. It is, but knowing about with me that used to always think that the Earth was a shell. The Earth was a shell. Is that knowing about from what part of the highway do you go until you come up to like what you call is like a big wall. A big wall. I would probably think about the type of wall I'm talking about would be, it's like anybody would probably thinking about that if you be driving like on a road right here, and let's just say if you were be coming from town or something like that, driving on the road right here, and then all of a sudden you'll be driving on the road right here, and then all of a sudden you come up to a big wall. Talk about a wall that looks like this right here. A big wall, a big dome, I guess you say you call it, a big domic, wall it is. And of course there's like what you call is like, and then space, I guess space will be visible, and from about the outside, right here it is. And then of course you have right here, go ahead and maybe draw a little bit of grass. Let's just say go ahead and add some more artistic detail to it. It's like if there was like say grass at about right here it is. And that knowing about that, anybody will probably think about that, really, that, that, well, from whatever direction, we can't go that direction because that's a dead end. Because right here, you got right here is the shelf, from planet Earth right here, and we can't go past that. Like, yeah, and who says you go? Somebody take their bulldozer, their monster truck, and drive right through and just go, and then on your into the Nunavut, it's like that. It's like if you go through that wall of the shell of planet Earth, and then it's like you'll be drifting off into space. It is you're gonna say going into space, and then it's like who knows? It's like talking about it's like if you ain't got a space suit, then more likely you're in trouble, man. But other than that, it's like talking about it's like the people probably think about, hey, you don't need to be out here, you need to be, beyond. It's like, the Earth shell. It is, it's like talking about somebody that's in a spacesuit or anything like that. But anyway, that we may think of all kinds of things, really. That whenever we're young, I guess we may think of all kinds of things. So ask questions. It is talking about. It's like that yeah, we may used to always think that that maybe the moon had cheese on it. If I remember right, that there was a TV show at one time, and it was I think Bananas and the Pajamas, I think, was the name of the show. But talking about whenever they go to the moon, and then of course it'd be dreaming. One of them will be dreaming about they would be going on the moon and collecting rocks. And then of course they said, "Why are you collecting rocks?" "Because it tastes like cheese." And then knowing about it's like, ha ha ha, yeah, right. And like, well, go ahead and taste it, try it yourself. And then I can remember that show, the Bananas and Pajamas. If I can remember, Bananas and Pajamas are covered. But other than that, it's like, of course, that was like early 1994 it was. But anyway, that you have right here is right here is a road, and then of course with the road. And with the road, it comes out, say, with the dead end, and then you have right here is a big wall, and the shell of Earth is. And then just knowing about, and then later on we find out that we all know if it's what you call it's like between sailing on the lake, it is like you're sailing, say, on a lake. Well, I know it's like, hey, the Earth is round. You see, the Earth is round, like about how round? Well, round to the point where if you take two capital C's and then if you were to combine them together, and then knowing about that there's what you call that certain type of cream filly. It is that certain type of cream filly to where that knowing about that the type of cream filly is knowing about Earth is round is talking about if you start from here and you go on and on and on until you come to the round part is to say of the cream filly. It is, and a lot of us probably think about think of all kinds of ways of how to describe what I'm talking about. But the Earth is round is talking about that. Yeah, really. Do we know yet? I mean, the fact about that if we were to be digging in the ground, or if we were to be say the next thing that we can maybe explore, is there a type of star that more likely that could come close to Earth, to the point where it's like talking about that if there's a type of star that can maybe land into the ocean, it is, and cause like what you cause like any type of a overheating, of course, of the Pacific or anything like that, or is there anything such as like what you call is like to where that we somebody may think about the Earth. The Earth is going to turn counterclockwise. It's going to turn counterclockwise to the point where it's like Greenland and Scotland will be like what you call like down here, and like I guess to say the further southeast or some of that part of the continent. Of course, North and South America, of course, will be on the opposite part, say of the atmosphere. Part of facing, of course, towards the sun, whichever it is. Is the Earth going to go and say, all of a sudden come out of balance, or if it's going to go ahead and say start, is it going to come to the point where the atmosphere starts getting thicker, and of course that maybe some of the land, out there, and maybe parts of New Mexico or whatever are going to just start, getting hot. It is. It's like talking about something we say on Discovery Channel. It's like, the atmosphere, But other than that, like talking about different things that more likely you could probably think about. It's like the things that you think about really. Whenever you're young, I guess more likely, maybe you don't realize, and then maybe you don't know the fact about the Earth. The Earth is made up of all kinds of possibilities. The possibilities is knowing about. It's like, if you learn them, then keep them in mind. But other than that, it's talking about, it's like, for Earth, is a shell, and talk about right here, is the guy right here is for the airplane right here. And of course, the calculator measuring, it says, is talk about, it's like what you call, it's like for the airplane. And then of course you got right here is like for the turtle, and then the shell, and of course it's say with the dinosaurs it is. Talk about here is like Earth shell coloring activity.